the end of the day, selling is transferring a feeling. If you don't have the feeling, you can't transfer it. If you don't have a good, positive feeling, dude, you're an actor. You have to sell and run your business from a place of positivity. And however you get there, God bless you. It's episode 26 of the Pete Primeau Show, and I am here with Victor Antonio. Good morning, Victor.
How are we doing this morning, Pete?
I'm good. Are you ready for your surprise?
You know, first of all, a small complaint here. This is episode 26. It took you 25 just to finally get to me. I don't know how I should take that. I'm a little offended, but there it is. Go ahead. All right. What is the surprise? What is the surprise?
It's coming. It's coming.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage, Victor Antonio.
Give me some noise.
Because we know people who should be successful, but what? They're not successful. Why?
So that's his why buy. But what is he afraid of?
My personal style of education, but still entertain them, bring them along with stories, right?
I love this guy. I love this guy.
Pretty awesome.
Who do we want to learn from? People who are what? Killing it.
People who are killing it.
There we go.
Yeah, that's cool.
So how I got to know you, Victor, the very first time I heard your name, it was either Mike Weinberg or Mark Hunter, and they were talking about Outbound and the fact that the audience is asked to rank the speakers, and you are the number one best ranked speaker at Outbound. Oh, that's the first thing I ever heard of you.
By the way, I got this is full. I'm being honest here. I didn't know they had rankings for speakers.
Yeah. They have a thing that they hand out to the audience, and you were number one. So,
that's funny. That's cool.
So the way I got to know you was through IFRA. We were in the pandemic, and there's this thing on virtual selling, and dude, I was like, what the heck's going to happen here? I can't see my customers. Everyone's just going to go out of business. You know, this is in my mind. I didn't dare say this to anybody, not my wife, nobody. As a matter of fact, I shoot it out of my mind whenever it came into my mind. But we're all going to be out of business. I'm going to be, what am I going to do?
Hey, by the way, I think we should define for the audience what IFRA is. I think it's the International Home Retail Furniture Retail Association, right?
Rep Association. It's for independent reps.
There you go. There you go.
They hired Victor to do a seminar on virtual selling, and that was so I didn't connect the two. So I'd heard about you, and I had seen a little bit about you, but I didn't know who you were from Adam. And then I'm going, this dude is really confident. I'm like,
how do you
and then I listen to him and I go, he's on the money. This dude knows what he's talking about. Oh, great. So started listening. And then you, I think, made an announcement there that you're going to be doing this thing, Sales After Dark. And basically 3 times a week, you came on there live. You did a little lesson, and then you answered it up. It was almost like group coaching for free, which was, I thought, fairly insane for a guy of your caliber. So here's my question to you. Why did you do it?
Why did I do it? It is a good question. It's a solid question. So to set up the full frame, to make sure everybody understands. So March of last year, you know, I remember I got back from Puerto Rico. It was like I was doing, first quarter is always a big quarter for me, speaking and coaching, right? So I just finished doing a run. By run, I mean several dates in Puerto Rico. And it was March 13th, and then March 20th, we went on a shutdown, right? And just like you, just like pretty much everybody else, we're like, what's going to happen? And then sometimes, when we don't know what to do, the best thing is to do something. That's kind of my philosophy, right? So keep moving, be a shark, keep moving. And so I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I realized that, okay, now we're going to I don't know. When the contract started rolling in, Pete, canceling my events, I go, uh-oh. It was like, oh, this is not good, right? And so I'll just say the beginning of April, I'm like, this is not going to go well this year. And so this is not going to go well. And I think I lost like 90% of my business as the year went on. And now fast forward to the end, we still grew like almost 18%, that year, which is 2020. So what I said, what do I do? It's like, for me, I'm like, my ADHD is really bad. So if I can't travel, I got to do something. So I redid the studio, which is what you see now.
Yeah.
Bought me an interactive board. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to start doing these things, in the evening. I was going to do one during the day, but I said, let's do it in the evening. Let's do something casual. And I wanted to make it something very casual, just sales trading casually. And I was looking for a name, and I kept thinking, I want to do it at night, and then I don't know why this popped into my head. I guess, we'll just leave it at that. But I was thinking of Hugh Hefner's Playboy After Dark, right? And that's how I came up with the title. I think, what about Sales After Dark? I said, yeah, that's a good concept. And then I committed. I said, you know what? I'll do this 3 times a week just to stay top of mind in the public eye. And I committed to 100 episodes, not knowing what it took to do 100 episodes. It's just like, I put a stake in the ground and I went for it. And by episode 20, 25, I'm like, what did I commit to? But it just drove me, man. It just drove me. Like I said, and then throughout the whole, I think we did about 105. I'll probably do some more in the future, but there were so many cool things that happened along the way. And I was able to generate a lot of business because of Sales After Dark as well. So there's the unintended consequences. But I did it because I didn't know what else to do. I had to do something.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it was a lifesaver for me. And thank you very much for doing it. And
thank you for attending. You were always there. And the reason when you asked me to do this podcast, I'm like, of course, man, for you, man. You and several other people were always there. Like for you, were there for like day one, I think. I don't know what, but there's 4 or 5 people I have in my head who were always on the Sales After Dark call with me.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, this is one of my prized possessions.
Yeah, my pen. One of my pens. Yeah, you won that. Yeah.
And you want to know something?
Yeah.
What? This may make you sad or it might make you happy, but this was every bit as important. And here's a little sales lessons for everybody watching. A little handwritten, you probably can't even see it, but a little handwritten note that takes you a few minutes goes a long way, folks. And
thank you for your constant support. For those who can't see what he's showing.
So I guess you couldn't see it. Well, you sure won't be able to see it on the audio podcast, right?
Correct. That's correct.
Thanks for catching me, Victor. I appreciate that. So how in your mind, because listen, we had wholesale reps, we had retail salespeople, we had store managers in that group. We had people from all kinds of industries, which fascinated me, and it was very interesting to see what they thought was important and what they latched onto. When you look at business in general, both retail and wholesale, what's changed in the last year for you? I mean, the obvious, we were shut down and now we're in the process of reopening. Some places are more open than others.
Mm-hmm. I think this is going to be an interesting study. One of the things I like, I'm into this thing right now where I just want to watch documentaries, right? And I like documentaries that are like 10 to 20 years lagging. In other words, 10 to 20 years when there's an emotional detachment from the actual incident, whatever it may be. Like I just saw one on Chernobyl, which I thought was fantastic. I mean, learned things I didn't know before. And I think it will happen with the pandemic as well. Not to compare it to Chernobyl. I mean, that's just one example. But when we get enough distance, we're going to see, what really went on and all the good things and the bad things, good, bad, and the ugly, right?
Yeah.
That went on. And I think, I'm going to focus on the good because I think there's a lot of good stuff that actually happened. I think the biggest one I always talk about is that we realize that in many ways, we don't, as salespeople, we don't have to be there to sell. Some industries actually prospered, especially from a profitability standpoint. One of my biggest clients is a energy company, and they sell batteries, like big batteries, not little like big batteries. $1 billion company. And one of the things they saw was very interesting. He said, Victor, our sales dropped by 10%. He said, but our cost of sales went through the floor, which means our profitability is way up. The pool industry, another industry I work with, their pool sales just shot through the roof. They thought that they were going to go into the tank. In other words, I was talking to the gentleman who his name is Michael Moore with Moorhead Pools, and he was very forthright. He said, Victor, I got to tell you, we had plan A, plan B, plan C. He said plan A was to cut costs. As soon as the pandemic hit, plan A, cut costs. Plan B, reduce the head count. Plan C, have no idea what we were going to do. He said, but he's funny. He goes, we just did plan A, cut costs, but then we realized that our business started to grow. And the unintended consequence there is that people started cocooning more, staying in their homes. Well, staying in their home, you got to do something. And that time people decided to get a pool. So that was a positive. And there's so many examples. I wish somebody would write a book about all the upsides of the pandemic when it came to selling. I think that would be an incredible document to read.
Yeah, I think so. My business ended up being close to 40% up. My income was 40% up.
Wow.
My expenses were, I normally put 60,000 miles on my car, and I put 19,000 miles on my car. Mm-hmm. So they were literally a third of what they normally were. So needless to say, it was a very good year for me. And,
good for you.
I was blessed and very thankful for it.
Hey, Pete, I don't mean to interrupt, but one of the things I'd love to see in this 10 to 20 year study in the future that they're going to do is the environmental impact or lack thereof of the pandemic. Because think about it, we weren't driving.
Less pollution.
Less pollution. I mean, some cities actually said, hey, I can see the buildings now.
Yeah.
I haven't seen in the last 20 years. So you think about the carbon footprint. You think about all the things that, we learned in terms of we don't have to travel. And then, it's now that we've been shown that virtual selling or remote selling, pick your flavor, is possible. I don't think we'll return fully back to normal, but we will have it. I hate to use the word hybrid because it's overused and abused, but there is going to be this blend of how we do business. Just like we connect with people on different channels, how we sell differently now has also changed on different channels.
Yeah. Yep. For sure. And I think one of the things that you did a great job of in your seminar, the very first seminar that I attended, is you kind of explained to us that even though you didn't quote call it virtual, your business, the way you ran your business largely was virtual.
Mm-hmm. In many ways, like for me, inbound marketing has always been about virtual. Like, right now I think I have like 1,600 videos on YouTube, and that generates a massive amount of traffic to my website. And so I've been doing virtual for quite a while, plus 10 years easy. And so I think the rest of the world just finally caught up with virtual. So instead of a 45-degree trajectory to virtual, I think we just made a 90-degree turn and said, all right, let's start doing some of this. And initially people freaked out. Some people are still panicking, but the reality is that it can be as effective. And it's not for all industries, but it can be as effective and as beneficial when you go virtual.
Yeah. So let's talk about Sales Velocity Academy. But before I let you talk about your product, I'm going to talk about your product as a user. Okay. So basically what it is, and Victor hates when I say this, but I'm going to say it. So I don't care. You get to have Victor Antonio 24 hours a day if you want him.
Yeah.
And so listen, everyone has a different schedule there, and the nice thing, whether you're a morning person, you're a night person, you have access to literally thousands of videos, and they're small and he covers different, and it's so well organized. And basically, if you went through all of them, and I haven't been through all of them, even though I've tried,
It's a lot.
there's a lot there. It's basically, it's your like little coach that you can access and do 5 or 10 minutes at a time. And, you know, one of the things that, you know, Gittimer is great at talking about is, you know what, just read 2 to 3 pages of something positive every day, or, you know, every morning, preferably. And, you know, you don't have to do great big chunks. And for me, watching, you know, a handful of videos, 15, 20 minutes, and boom, I'm good to go. I got my Victor in for the day. You talk about your product, because it's an awesome product and I highly recommend it. Anybody that doesn't have it, you need to get it. You need to have Victor 24/7. No, I know he hates that.
That part I didn't like.
I know. I know you don't. I'm sorry, but
the part before that was good. It's a great academy. I mean, there's a lot of content in there. So whether you're starting out as a salesperson, experienced salesperson, and even some management courses in there, I think it's probably one of the most comprehensive sales training platforms out there.
It is. And you add something new to it every week.
Every month is what we're trying to do now. That's more of a regular schedule we're trying to keep on. There was that weekly thing. It gets a little, you know, overwhelming, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. I got it. So here, let's transition to this. You know, I was talking to Chris earlier, and I said, I am never going to be able to ask him all the questions I want. And this hour is going to go by so fast. And it's like, I want to talk fast so I can hurry up.
Yeah.
And by the way, Dan, thank you. What does Dan say here? How do you keep the excitement up on your virtual events? That's a great question.
Yeah.
Can you answer that?
It's not an easy way to answer, but I think, you know, I have a course on like pattern interrupts, and I have also a master class I did on virtual engagement, which is how do you do it? Like, there's so many ways that you can engage virtually. There's so many strategies you could use. Pattern interrupt is almost like the foundation of how you should do it, and then what you stack on top of it is the best way of doing it. The short answer is understand what your client wants. That's the easy part, right? But the thing is how do you create this almost this cycling, this emotional cycling throughout the process, and how do you keep that going? A lot of people don't give that thought, and I do. Like I can look at my slides. If I use slides on the board, I know that every, let's say 2 or 3 slides, I'll say 5 to 7 minutes, there's a pattern interrupt of some sort, and I plan out those pattern interrupts. I'm gonna do a presentation at Outbound next week, and I'm gonna do something so unique and so different that nobody's ever seen it before on how to do a presentation from the stage. And I'll just leave it at that. But it will be a first in speaking history. I'm going to take engagement to the next level. It's going to be good. It's going to be good. I'm keeping that close under wraps. It's going to be good.
So do my audience a favor for the handful of people out there that don't know what a pattern interrupt is. Can you define it for them?
A pattern interrupt is when you just, hey, oh, I'm back. Pattern interrupt.
That was a pattern interrupt.
That was a pattern interrupt. By the way, let me tell you a story. Pattern interrupt. That's all it is. I got a question for you. Pattern interrupt, right? It's when you get the audience to do something, make them do an exercise, but it's got to be purposeful. It can't be like gratuitous, like because you feel like you need to interrupt their pattern every 3 to 5, 7 minutes. So it has to be as part of your presentation. I think that's the trick. That's the science. Anybody can create pattern interrupts. You can tell stories, you can ask questions, you can do polls, you can do surveys, you can switch screens, you can show graphics, you can add a video, whatever it may be. All these are pattern interrupts. But the question is, how do you weave them seamlessly as part of your presentation without making it seem like it's a gratuitous pattern interrupt? There is the science and the art of it.
Yep. And let me tell you something. From the beginning, when I watched you using it's the Vibe board, right? Is that
Correct.
what it's called?
Yep.
Vibe board.
Yep.
When you started to do the Vibe board till the end, the additional skill and the ease and the comfort level that you got with that as a tool was amazing to watch, because, you know, we're not watching, you know, a 20-year-old who we expect to go quick. You know, we're watching a 57-year-old man at that point, right?
Thank you for highlighting that. But yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
57. Yeah, it's better than 75. I don't know. I guess it depends on how you look at it, brother. I mean, there's a lot of ways to look at that.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, you have to keep up with the tools, right?
Yeah.
I always tell myself, I don't want to be that old guy at the disco. See, nobody even uses the word disco anymore, but you don't want to be the old guy at the party going, that's not music. Oh, that doesn't work. We used to do it like this. When I was your age, nobody wants to hear that. And so I learn a lot, like from millennials. You know what I mean? They teach me a lot. I just take what they have to offer. I blend it with what I got, and I create a mashup. Betterment. I'll put it that way.
Yep. So there's a lesson too for store owners, for sales reps, and for RSA sales pros at retail. Embrace change, because it's going to happen with you or without you. You have a choice.
Yeah. But by the way, and let's talk to the retail industry and the furniture industry, and the home furnishing industry, because there's so many ways. I would argue with them till I'm blue in the face. I'll argue that there's so many ways that you can use virtual to your advantage that most people simply don't do. And I think you just have to kind of open your mind to the fact that it is possible. I think, it's like when you go to a workshop, right? There's several people that show up. The first type is like, I can't learn anything. You can't teach me anything. I've been in this industry for 100 years, blah, blah, blah. That person is not going to learn, right? The other person that's going to learn is the person that's reminded of something. But the people that learn the most are the people who are triggered by, and I like to use the word triggered, are triggered by listening to somebody or watching somebody go, now how can I take what they're doing and implement it and use it in my context? See, that's a totally different question that you ask yourself, right? How could I use that in my context? The best question you ask when you want to learn something new. It's easy to say, that won't work, but it's harder to ask yourself, how could I make that work for me?
Yeah. It's a great question. So we're switching gears, and from the pandemic. How do you see the future
of selling?
The short-term future of selling in both retail and B2B, long-term and short-term.
I'm going to take the unpopular opinion right now.
Go ahead. I love that
we're going to go back to normal. I mean, we are to a large extent.
No,
we're
we're
going to
not.
go back to normal. See,
you're right. Bullshit. We're not going back to normal.
By the way, and can I finish my argument though? So
yes.
You got to let the man present his argument, and then you have to kind of then address the argument. That's usually the way it works. I thought you'd do that. So the argument is as such. We believe that things really change, but let's really analyze. Let's break this apart. If I ask the question of people, has selling really changed? The answer is no. It's always about a transaction of value for value. It never changes. Selling has never changed. I'm sorry, but it hasn't. So what has changed are the tools and the mediums of change, of selling rather, right? The tools and the medium. So what has happened now is that we're going to return back to a sense of normal, because all we're going to do, still buy the same way, still transact the same way. We'll just use different tools and mediums. For example, we had the internet. That changed everything. Then came social media. Or one could argue Amazon first. That's how we bought. Then came social media. These are just different tools and mediums of change. So we're going to go back to that. Now, some people will say, you know what? I don't like doing it this way. I want to sell more virtually. Maybe the first 2 or 3 phone calls as I'm prospecting and qualifying, and maybe even demoing, you know what? We're going to do this we're going to do this virtual. And then the second half might be maybe a face-to-face. But in the end, we're going to sell the same way. We're going to get back to normal. We just have new tools and new mediums to sell. That's it.
I hate when you're right, Victor. I hate when you're right.
So I think sometimes, and by the way, I understand the argument. Are we like completely back to how we used to sell? No, we just added a new tool to the toolkit. But is that really change? Or is that just more dexterity when it comes to selling? I say it's more dexterity that we're arguing.
Yeah. Yep. You're all right. I stand corrected. I stand corrected. You're right. But so let's stay on that. Mm-hmm. So tools for a retail store. Mm-hmm. Some stores do videos. Most stores don't. Mm-hmm. you just mentioned that you had 1,600 YouTube videos.
Mhm.
And I would venture to say that most stores have no YouTube videos.
Mhm.
Really progressive or good stores
Right.
might have 20,
Mhm.
30
Mhm.
if they've really embraced it. So I guess my suggestion, if you own a store, is videos, but not just videos of, sometimes we show a nightstand. It's this kind of wood. That's not the video I'm talking about. You can do product videos, but I would really encourage you to show the customer what it can do for them in their home more than anything else. But also, I think I would let them into the why. The
Mhm.
why for your company. Why does your business exist? Why do you exist? And if your customer buys into your why, they bought before they even walk into the store.
It's when we look at, when we talk about what's really transforming, the tools are obviously transforming what we use, right? I mean, think about it. Today, I have a video studio. This cost me about, I don't know, I'm going to estimate about $10,000 to build this whole studio out with board and everything, right? This equipment would have cost me $500,000 to $1 million, 20 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Today, your iPhone or Droid, whatever it may be, I mean, it's a high quality 1090p camera. Again, that camera right there in that phone was probably 5, 10, 20,000 several years ago. So all of a sudden, all these tools are basically increasing our ability to market ourselves more effectively. That said, when we talk about the transformation, what we're seeing is that consumers are smarter. Check the box, right? They're finding more information online. Check the box. If you don't have content online to help educate them during the customer journey, you need to check that box. So marketing is transforming. Marketing is definitely changing. I used to say that sales leads, marketing follows, right? Marketing would put some stuff out there, but really we close the deal on sales. Today, you've seen a shift in that balance. I think marketing is actually now more important than selling, something I thought I would never say, right? But today, marketing is more important. Branding is more important. And by the way, when I say marketing, I'm looking at the umbrella under this tent is the salesperson's personal brand, the amount of videos out there, case studies, so forth and so on, everything that has to do with the customer journey. By the time they get to the salesperson, they're pre-qualified. They've looked at stuff already. We
Right.
have CRM systems now with artificial intelligence that actually do some point scoring, can tell you what they've done, what they've looked at by the time they talk to you, Pete. And so what we're seeing is, again, selling is not changing. How people are buying continues to evolve as our buyers and consumer get smarter, but selling hasn't changed.
So, in your mind, what does a sales pro need to do to be more successful in the future? And boy, if that's not a layup shot to go to see your presentation at Outbound, I don't know what is.
Go see my presentation at Outbound. So Outbound is a conference where we're bringing in, I forgot how many speakers now, 24, 26. We just got a portfolio of speakers that are going to speak on every topic under the sun when it comes to selling. Jeb Blunt, Anthony Arena like to call it the rock show for salespeople, and I think it is. It's going to be, if I may add the phrase, a badass. It's going to be a badass event. You can attend live or virtual. Check them out, and if you do decide to join, just use Victor 100. That's the discount code. You'll get a small little break on the price there, but I think it'll be worth it. What do salespeople need to do? I think, again, let's break this up into two big categories, right? Millennials and boomers and everything in between, right? But if I put the boomers on one hand, you better up your game. You better get with the technology. You better up your phrases. You better up your closing strategies, whatever it may be. You need to up your game. You need to change I mean, even the way, have you even noticed, Pete? It's amazing to me that you really just study even clothing style, something that most people don't consider. Clothing style. When I see a person wearing like a 3-piece suit, I'm like, what are you, stuck in the 80s? You know what I mean? When I see cuffs on your pants, I'm going, what are you, stuck in the 90s? You know what I mean? Even clothing in the business scenario has changed. Fewer people wear ties, right? People wear sports jackets or whatever it may be, something casual. But even the fashion of selling is changing. I think that's really fascinating to watch. And I think, now, this may sound like something that's like, yeah, why is he talking about that? Because the last thing you want to do is look dated. So not only do you have to update your sales techniques, but you have to update how people perceive you in the market, and we have to pay attention to all these small signals. For example, studies have shown a lot of millennials like to be contacted via email or SMS. Okay, that's something different. I'm sure cold calling is in there, so forth and so on. But think about it. Even the way we communicate or how people want to be contacted changed. One study by Forrester I thought was interesting. It was either Forrester or Gartner. I'll apologize to both of them if I get it wrong. And that is, they highlighted that vendors in the B2B space, companies in the B2B space, when they're looking for a new vendor, prefer to connect with them virtually first before meeting with them face to face. Now think about that. It was like the numbers like 72, 73%. So the majority would rather talk to a new potential vendor virtually than meet with them. And that kind of makes sense. And so all these little things are changing. But this is not a result of the pandemic. This is a result of the tools and the mediums available for us to sell today. The pandemic, all it did was highlight, if not accelerate, where we were going anyway, which was more towards this virtual medium and engaging the clients later on in the buying cycle.
Yeah. I just started cracking open Daniel Disney's book on LinkedIn. And one of the things that he said in there hit me over my almost 61-year-old head. It's likely that the very first impression your client will have of you will be virtual.
Yes.
And so is that impression what you want it to be?
Yeah. I mean, you have to create. The thing is, it's all about avatars now. You know, it's the first thing people see. And so people are reaching into LinkedIn and looking at your profile before deciding whether to respond to your inquiry or not. I mean, it's that simple. It's how do you brand yourself? The thing is, the individual salesperson now becomes an extension of the actual company's brand. Now, that comes with great power comes great responsibility, right? So if you're going to be like an extension of a company's brand, you got to make sure you're in line with what the message they're trying to portray. But having said that, you now become a brand in and of itself. What you write, people look at your activities, what you post, what you say, what you share, all that stuff now comes into play whether I want to talk to you or not. And again, if you're a decision maker, the first thing you're going to do is go online and say, who is this person that's contacting me? What do they know? And so that has become, again, a new way of selling. And that really is to create that first impression. So before, we were all worried about, remember the years ago, Pete, you remember this book. What was it? What color is your parachute? It was all about, first impressions and who you are and all that stuff. And now, what colors your LinkedIn page look like? What does it look like? What message are you projecting? And so I think that's also fascinating. By the way, I love Daniel Disney's work. So I think he's got a great book. He's going to be at Outbound also virtually. And so he's absolutely right. LinkedIn has become, especially in the B2B space, a way of people connecting with you, and people will automatically look at your profile. And here's what I always tell people. I said, Victor, what should I have on my LinkedIn profile? I always say, it's really easy. Just go look at somebody else's and then ask yourself, would you buy from this person? Or would you want to talk to this person? And if the answer is no, don't do that. If the answer comes back yes, do that. It's that simple. I'm sorry. It's like when people ask me, Victor, how can I become a better salesperson? Well, become a better buyer. How do you buy? Really think, be cognitively aware of how you buy. And how you buy is how you sell. It's that simple.
Yeah, I think that's really important. One of the things that I've always taught my retail sales people is shop your competition and then don't do what they do. Unless you run into somebody who's outstanding and you're fighting the urge to buy from them, even though you're in the industry, like you want to. It happened to me. I'll tell you who I was, a guy by the name of Joe Sands. And I was shopping him and he didn't know me. I didn't know him. He was so good. He was so good, Victor, that here I am shopping him. I had to literally fight the urge not to buy from him at full retail.
I love it. I love it.
That's how good that dude was. But 90% of the time when I shop my competition, I'm like, dude, who lied to you? Or are you just lying on your own? Because the information that you're given is not accurate.
Yeah. I like to think of myself as a collector. Do you know what I mean? A collector of good habits. And so what I do is when I'm roaming the internet, when I'm going through LinkedIn, when I'm seeing things, I collect. It's like collect artifacts. It's like I collect. I said, oh, that's kind of cool. I like what they did there. Oh, here's what they're showing. Oh, look what they did there. And I'm just a collector. And I think we should all be collectors. When I watch other speakers, I get a lot of compliments for speaking, but that's because I'm a great collector. I collect from everybody. If I see a great presenter, I collect. If I watch a comedian, do a monologue, I watch how they do it, and I collect some of their best practices. So I think that's a good way of learning and becoming better.
And that is a very good point, but I'm not going to let you off the hook with that one.
Talk to me.
So I know for a fact that there is no way, because I've seen a lot of your presentations, a lot. It's not on accident. It's on purpose. The moves, the gestures, the stories, how you tell them. Yeah. That is thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of practice.
Yes. I would say 10,000 hours of deliberate practice. So yeah, I'm always asked the question, the nicest compliment I get is that I've never seen a speaker move where their gestures line up with what they're actually saying. Right. And that's for several reasons. I mean, one is I studied the best of the best. I studied at the knee of Zig Ziglar and Jim Rohn, right? Especially Zig Ziglar had the movements down. I also took courses and classes on improv. Improv is how do you basically, become more improvisational. But from improv, you learn, a lot of things about presenting yourself. I look at how other people present, and when something doesn't resonate, I go, why didn't that work? Why didn't that work? And I said, if that person had just done this and that. So I'm the guy that walks around the house. My wife's kind of used to it. Is that I'm actually speaking the story in my head, and I'm gesturing as I walk around the house. And you'll see even when I'm walking down the street, this often looks weird. I'm trying to find the right gesture. So if you give me an action right now, you say, Victor, how would you describe this? And if you got one right now, give it to me, Pete. Then I would try to figure out the right gesture. But not only the right gesture, but the right gesture from stage. For example, okay, Vic, sales are increasing. Now, most people would do this. Watch, sales increase. I just went left to right for those who can't see it visually. Left to right, right? Sales increase. Show the bar chart. But here's the reality. That's actually wrong from the stage because you got to do it the opposite. You got to go from right to left because they'll see it as growing. And little things like that begin to add up. Right? It's like even how you point, how you gesture. Should you point? Should you use the open hand point? Should you use the understanding palm up point? Or if you want to dive deep, do you just point towards the ground to make a point? How do you do it? Which gesture makes sense? So it's to that level. I'm obsessed with it, but I enjoy it.
Well, I think you touched on two things that I'm going to ask you to go a little deeper on. Obsessed. All great. I don't care. I don't care if you're a business owner. I don't care if you're a professional athlete or an amateur athlete for that matter. I don't care if you're an actor or an actress, a singer. It doesn't even matter what it is. The people who are the best are always obsessed with being the best. And not necessarily just for that sake, but they are obsessed. When I was in college, Victor, I lived in a dormitory and I was a defensive tackle on my football team. And I practiced my first half step out of my stance. I don't know, millions of times. And the walls would shake. And I get in my stance and I practice. In the first, few hundred or 1,000 times I did it. Everybody's coming out of the hall. I say, what the heck's going on? It's Pete Primeau practicing his first step out of his stance. And so later, when I was a two-time All-American,
I like that visual, by the way.
When I was a two-time All-American, anybody that knew me, it wasn't an accident. The fact that you are one of the greatest speakers from stage, it's not an accident. It's the result, you said something.
I would, by the way, I wouldn't say I was one of the greatest speakers.
Oh, no,
I've seen a lot of
you
great
are.
speakers. But
No. That's
I don't know.
your perfectionism kicking in.
Maybe.
So,
I don't think
yeah.
so, but go ahead.
but you triggered something, and when you said I took classes. So I've said this 100 times. I'll say it 1,000 more times, God willing, before I go into the great yonder. Every master is first and foremost a student.
Absolutely.
And if you show me somebody who's exceptional, I will show you somebody who's a great student, who's worked hard to become a great student, who still, even in this high level of performance, is still looking for one more thing.
Absolutely,
It always cracked me up. I'll never forget this as long as I live. I was working with a franchise group, and the number one guy always was there for the beginner classes with all the rookies. He came back in and did the beginning class every time. And I'm like, this guy's at the top of his game. And I finally said, Darren, dude, what are you doing? Like, you don't need this. He goes, oh no, Pete. He goes, I need to remind myself of the basics all the time. And sometimes something slips, and I don't want anything to slip. I don't want to lose my edge. And that's something that we see consistently with anybody who performs at a high level. So when
I look at people speak, I have a hard time enjoying speakers. This is kind of personal confession here. I have a hard time enjoying speakers because I'm just looking at technique, content delivery technique, and all three have to be, in sync. So content, delivery, technique. And one of those out of balance, my brain just triggers like, oh, why did you say that? Oh, why did you do that? Oh, you missed an opportunity. And, it's funny because I think some people think that the best speakers are those who are very dynamic and so forth and so on. But I think some of the best speakers, and I'll give you an example, and I talked about this on one of my Sales After Darks, and I even gave examples, was Simon Sinek, right, who wrote Find Your Why. And Simon Sinek, like he's my friend. Hey, Simon, like Simon, my bud. Simon was doing his presentation, and he wrote like 3 things on this flip chart, like 3 letters, really, if that, whatever it was. But yet for 45 minutes, he just kept me there. And he didn't even move that much. He took maybe a half step this way, half step that way. And I had to watch the whole video again. First of all, it was education, it was great content. And I said, what is it with this guy's delivery? And then I realized his delivery wasn't, we often think of body language and things of that nature, but his delivery system was his use of his voice and facial expressions. And the way he did it was just masterful. Now, he probably doesn't know. You can tell it's very natural for him. But I've never seen anybody tell stories like that, not use a lot of, physical movements, and just stand there and be able to hold your attention for that long. And I thought it was impressive. Yeah, stuff like that. This, by the way, this is one where he's actually more animated. There's one where he's just standing and he writes a couple and the thing's right behind him. But even here, when you look at this video right here, he even handicaps himself. He's holding the mic in his left hand. He could have worn a lavalier, which would have given him more fluid, but it doesn't matter to him. And then notice when he walks, like he does the oh shucks. He kind of has an oh shucks. I'm just kind of an ordinary guy, just like you, trying to understand these little circles. And there's this quizzical look he always gives the audience, right? There's the quizzical look. And he's trying to explain, like, what's going on? And then he points it back. I mean, see the shrug? Again, he humbles himself. Like, I don't know. I'm just trying to understand. Anyway, what I look at that, we didn't even plan this, right? I look at that and I start dissecting him. Without even listening to the audio, I can pretty much know what he's trying to do, which is amazing, actually.
That, he cost me a lot of money in the short term, and he made me millions in the long term. Yeah. He and the funny thing of it is, I didn't even know about his book. One of the companies I was representing at the time, Victor, made me read it as part of my assignment.
Now there's my
Oh,
guy right
there's
there.
Zig.
Now
There's
look,
the
now
man.
look at the body language on Zig Ziglar.
Ugh.
Like Zig Ziglar's just like he'll do this. There's the hand. He's explaining over and over again. The hand tucks into the pocket, making it very casual. Let me just tell you a story, reaching out to the audience, and then now he brings the hand back out. Now there we go into full motion. I mean, now when he opens his palms up, he's just bringing the audience like, "Come on in. I'm about to talk to you. I'm a friendly guy." And then again, there's him making a point. I mean, you study these gestures; they're beautiful. And see, by the way, that was a crouch. Did you see the crouch? Every time he emphasizes, Zig Ziglar will crouch. And so I would study that guy's movements. I go and just look at him. I said, why does he do that? To me, it was almost like watching an elegant lion, or just roam, and the best speakers roam. But look at those gestures. Look how fluid they are. Look how beautiful that is. You know what I mean? And he's telling a story. And so I could just watch that all day, man. But yeah, that's the master, man. That's so, yeah. Now that's greatness.
Yeah, well, I don't think you really understand, but that's okay. So yeah, Simon was required reading, and I love to read, so no problem. I read it, and it really hit a nerve, and the nerve that it specifically hit with me was the company that I was representing was acquired, and it was a family-owned business. It was acquired by private equity. And they were no longer putting out the product that really made them who they were. And you know what? Little bit by little bit, inch by inch, it was starting to bug me. And I started to rationalize. And then that book just cracked it wide open for me. And I could not, I could not retreat back. I could not make any more excuses for them. I just.
So what was it about the book, though? What was it specifically? Or at least one of the things
about the alignment of your why, and very specifically, the alignment for my why is I work for my dealers, and if my product does not help my dealers make more money, more profit, and more sales, and less returns than anyone else's, it's not going to be a good fit for me. And what was happening was it was just going the absolute wrong way. And their why was directly linked to short-term profitability. My why was offering products that my customers could get more for in a competitive marketplace and make more margin on, and be very successful and be very confident in knowing that that product was going to stay sold.
So profitability over value was your, as they say in psychological terms, your cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, to really put it in colloquial terms, I just no longer believed in the product, and it just cracked that coconut shell wide open, and I could not retreat. I could not go back. And
it's like Schrodinger's cat. Once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Yes, exactly. So we talked about outbound just a little bit. Who should go to outbound?
I think if you're in sales, I know if you're in sales, I think you should go to outbound. If you have even if you're in marketing, I think you should go. I think you're going to learn not only, mostly sales, but there's going to be a lot of strategies in terms of how do people prospect? How do people actually do a lot of inbound? Even though we talk about outbound a lot, there's going to be some inbound conversations as well. And again, here's how I break this up. When you go there, you're going to be one of three things is going to happen to you. The first is you're going to learn something for the first time. You're going to go, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. The second thing that's going to happen is like your friend who went back to the basics of sales. He goes there because he wants to be reminded, because sometimes we forget, we drift away from the center line. And so he goes back for the basics to be reminded of what he stopped doing that he needs to start doing again. So you can learn something new, be reminded of something that you haven't done for a while, you need to get back to. And the third one would be that you've been triggered. What do I mean by triggered again? Is that you see something, you go, I could use that like this, or here's how I would use it. So you can go there to learn, to be reminded, or to get triggered.
All right, that's it. I'm going.
Yeah, that's it.
You made the sale. You made the sale. You made the sale.
There it is, man. There it is, man. Hope to see that. Like I said, I'll be doing something unique. This will be it'll be a first in presentation history. That's all I'm telling you. It'll be a first in presentation history. I don't know if I can pull it off. This is going to be equivalent to Roger Bannister's breaking of the 4-minute mile. How's that for drama? It's going to be interesting. Like I said, part of me is afraid, but part of me is excited because if I could pull it off, it's going to be really cool. If I don't pull it off, well, it's not going to be that good.
You're always great. I'm not worried about that. So this is what you're predicting. You're going to do this first time ever, and then everyone's going to copy you. Because that's what happened with Roger Bannister. They said the heart would pop, you would die if you ran a 4-minute mile.
Correct.
And then Roger Bannister did it. And then God, who knows how many people did it in the next year. It was just crazy.
Yep. So I think it's going to be an interesting, I mean, whether they copy it or not, who cares? It's not about, this is what I've stopped doing. I stopped looking at whether people copy me or imitate. I don't even care about that anymore. The thing is, I want to try something new and I want to see if it works from the stage. And the gift, the prize for me, the reward will be to see if I can pull it off. But if I don't get it that day, I'll try to get until I finally get it. I think it's a great strategy, what I'm going to use. I think I've never seen anybody do it. All
right.
It's going to be good. But yeah, by the way, so Jeb Blunt's going to be there. Anthony Iannarino, Mark Hunter. We got Daniel Disney also there. We talked about him. We got, James Muir. We got Colleen Francis. There they are, some beautiful names. We got, Something from the Heart, my man. Just so many great speakers. I mean, if you were to pay to get all these speakers in one room individually, well, first of all, you don't have that budget. So to be able to see, to be able to see all these speakers in one room, it's going to be incredible. What I love about Outbound also, which is why I suggest you go live, again, use the discount code Victor100, is that you get to meet people up front, close. Nobody has a special green room, right? So, all these speakers are wandering around, all throughout the days. And so it's a really nice way to connect, meet, engage, and just talk to maybe some of your favorites.
Victor, I will see you there. I cannot wait to see what you do. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming on here and sharing with us some things and really, what you modeled without even realizing it. The fact that you are such a student still at this high level of performance, the fact that you're obsessed in a good way about how you analyze speakers. I think that's how you're still in the game, dude. If you stop analyzing it, if you don't go content delivery technique, the day that you stop doing that, Victor, that's the day you hang it up. You're done.
I think you flatten out. I think you flatten out, you plateau, then you begin to decline. And I think it's always interesting, even I like learning from new speakers as well. So, a lot of I'll just call them millennial Gen Xers, that generation. There's certain speakers you watch at that level, that age bracket or that generation who have a different style of speaking. And again, you have to watch that as well. So it's not just about people who are, well in their years of speaking. It's also watching what the younger generation present, how the audience react to what they just presented. It leaves clues as to what you need to do to adjust so you can connect to the broad range or the big audience that you have.
Victor, thank you so much for being here.
Loved it.
See you at Outbound.
See you at Outbound. Outboundconference.com.
There we go.